So let me begin. My name's Bill Muir, aka Sergeant Vegan. Been vegan this August will make 32 years. And and I would like to give that round of applause to all of you for showing up to this amazing event and for being vegan, because honestly, it's amazing. I never thought when I went vegan at 19 that I would be seeing the world as we see it now. For vegan, it's just amazing. But let me not get ahead of myself here. Very stoked to share this with you. So my objective for writing Vegan Strong and this presentation is to rebrand what we think of vegan as. So for the longest time, and I would say for me personally, it was at least the first 10 years, maybe in the 50s, vegan was seen as something negative. It was, you would have to say, I'm sorry, I'm vegan. It would usually, that sorry, the apology for being vegan, that it's like I have to say I'm sorry for inconveniencing the other person or whoever I was talking to, or that it would be like my excuse for not being as strong or as fast or as whatever, or as whatever sexy in society, you know what I mean? But I think vegan is something positive. What's more positive than saying, hey, I want to do something not just for myself, but that saves the planet? Most younger people and some of us, older people care about the planet. We want there to be a planet for years to come, for our generations to come, and realize that climate change is one of the biggest threats that our country and our world see, and realize, oh, animal ag is inextricably linked to climate change. So number one. Number two, being vegan is about being compassionate. Most people, I had mentioned this earlier talking to folks, most people, if you ask them, hey, do you think it's okay to kick a dog, would emphatically say no. However, animal ag is doing much worse to many more animals than just that one hypothetical dog. It's billions upon billions of cows, turkeys, chickens, pigs, and unfortunately a whole bunch of other animals that are having really horrible things done to them, much worse than that hypothetical dog that's being kicked. And people have this kind of are able to not link it somehow because it's more socially convenient. Well, hey, vegans, we say that we care about that, and we actually do something about that. And I think living your values is something that we should be proud of. And lastly, the ethics. I mean, come on, being vegan is about promoting a healthier, happier world and life. So this is something we should be proud of, not just having to apologize for. We don't have to be obnoxious about it, but we should be proud of being vegan. And that choice that we've made, some of us in difficult times and standing up to societal pressure and sometimes family pressure and kind of bucking the norm. So my resume, I'm a combat vet. I served with the 173rd Airborne in Afghanistan between 2005, 2006. I'm a registered nurse. I got into that, basically, I was going to start a restaurant. I'm going to give you the short story. Was going to start a restaurant, went to a vegan culinary program in Massachusetts. It was awesome. However, 2008, what was the economy busy doing? Tanking. And I realized that that was probably not going to be something that was going to be feasible at that time. And in 2010, I was working in a bakery, and I saw all the unfortunate things that were happening in Haiti, and I decided to go volunteer there, and that kind of led me back to one of my first passions, which was being a medic, and then I decided to become an RN, and now I work with veterans in telemetry. Does anyone know what telemetry is? So for those that don't know, if you're watching a drama and there's a heart monitor behind the person, and there's some squiggles, for better or worse, I know what those squiggles mean. I can measure the squiggles, and I can tell if someone is doing okay based on the squiggle. For example, too many squiggles means the heart is doing something really fast. Either it's beating fast, you have an arrhythmia, which is, you're out of rhythm, or not enough squiggles, hey, something's going on with them. Or if it's a flat line, no squiggles, you better check that patient, because either they took their heart monitor off and they're in the bathroom, or they're busy going to meet their maker. And I've been vegan since 1992, which is now 32 years. Well, in August it'll be 32 years. I didn't write down the date that I went vegan because there was no one to tell at the time. In August of 92, I started eating fully plant-based, and I wish I had known in hindsight that there was interest to know that actual day that I had my last cookie, because I was vegetarian that for months before, but sadly I do not. I could make up a day, but it wouldn't be the same. So my vegan journey began. So can't really see for people in the back, but this picture, it's a knockoff t-shirt that I got in Italy because I hung out with some vegan straight edge kids in Italy that were in bands called Reprisal and other kind of basically metalcore bands. And they had this Bruce Lee t-shirt that says, "My flying fist will something something to you for, abusing animals." And the cake, because as you would guess, as wonderful as the US military is, they were not issuing vegan birthday cakes at the time. I had to make my own birthday cake. So this originally said, "Happy, 2 bad words, birthday to me." And then I was going to take a picture and send it home, and then people were like, "Dude, you shouldn't send that to your parents if it says those words." So that's why it's kind of weird and funky, because I took out the MF birthday to me. So I had to edit myself. One of the earliest times where I've done some self-editing. And that's what I look like. That would have been me in April of 2004. Yeah, in the 173rd. I was pretty happy. It was a good birthday. And the cake didn't even end up being eaten. I think we had a slice, and then just for another picture, someone hit me with the whole cake. Yeah, silly. Yeah, I know it's some silliness. So how did I get into all this? So I originally gave up meat for Lent in 1992. So does everyone know what Lent is? Anybody not know what Lent is? Okay, I got you. So Lent is the 40 days before Easter, which just happened recently. Easter, everybody loves Easter, where the idea behind it is you give up something and you say you're going to do less of something or more of something. Like, for example, adults will often eat less candy or less cake or not drink coffee, which is very hard for me to conceive of wanting to live in a world where there's no coffee, but you could do that. My mom, who's very, very religious to this day, asked, "Hey, what am I going to give up for Lent?" And because I was a snarky punk rock kid at that age, I was like, what can I tell my mom that'll really get to her? And just out of the blue, I was like, I'm going to go vegetarian. Well, nowadays, if someone said they were going to be vegetarian for 40 days, it would really not ruffle that many feathers. People wouldn't be that shocked by it because there's really nothing shocking about that. But I'm going to tell you, in 1992, saying that you're not going to eat meat was the equivalent of saying I'm not going to breathe for 40 days. People would think you were crazy. And people did think I was crazy. Some people said without irony, it was nice knowing you. But which is something funny, I would think you would say. But the fact that people actually believed it is almost more funny. They were like, oh my goodness, that. The family doctor was like, I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can do that. And this was the doctor. So at that point I thought, okay, vegetarian, probably crazy, might kill me. I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm a defiant punk rock kid. I was healthy and I was wrestling for LaSalle at that point. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this anyway and we're going to see what happens. Well, as you would guess, unlike popular belief at the time, I did not die. I did not get sick. I didn't go to that mythical protein deficient ward that everyone likes to cite of some mythical hospital that does not exist. Instead, I felt pretty good. I felt really healthy. And I was like, whoa, is it possible not everything that society is pushing on you is true? Is it possible that there's other things out there, other ideas? So I was like, okay, well, at that point, I wasn't doing anything ethically. I was just doing it to do it. I was like, let me just keep doing this. So when people ask, hey, are you gonna go back to eating meat? Somehow you survived. I was like, you know what? I'm just keep doing this and see what happens. Well, one day I got a hold of a flyer at a punk rock show, and it told about the awfulness of the slaughterhouses. And I saw one of those videos that were circulating from PETA, because there was no internet to speak of at that time. So you had to, get it from a friend or something like that. And when I put that together, I was like, oh my goodness, I've accidentally started doing something awesome. I've accidentally started doing something great, and not just for myself, for the animals. And even though we weren't talking about climate change back then, we knew that producing animals for food was ridiculously wasteful, and it used a lot of land, it used a lot of water, and created a lot of pollution. So even without the it's going to destroy our planet, we knew it wasn't good for the planet. And I thought, oh man, that's great. I'm doing something. I just stumbled and bumbled into something great. Then later, probably then, so if that would have been, when I saw that pamphlet, would have been probably about May of 92. By June, I had gotten yet another pamphlet from PETA, and this time about the dairy industry. And when I started to think about it, I was like, oh man, like it's really hard to have a cheese sandwich at that point, like knowing what we were doing to cows. And I just thought the farther along I went with it, the more I was like, man, if I'm eating a cheese sandwich, I might as well make it a cheeseburger because I'm killing that cow anyway. Not physically, but my action of giving those people money to do that to cows was awful. And it was a moral quandary because there wasn't the vegan infrastructure we have these days with companies like Beyond Meat and Impossible and So Delicious and, and Silk. There wasn't any of that. It was, if I gave up drinking milk and having cheese, those things were off the table. There was no Daya or Daya, however you like to call it, or Miyoko's. And then I had this quandary, this moral dilemma, and I realized it was a binary choice. Was I okay with animal suffering and contributing to that? Yes or no? If the answer was yes, then I could continue to be vegetarian. I continue to look myself in the mirror and lie to myself. Or I could say no, I wasn't okay with it. And if the answer was no, if I was not okay with animal suffering, then I would have to then live my own values. Well, I'm going to tell you, in 1992, as a 19-year-old, it was not very easy living my values. It would mean no ice cream. Like at that point, I just figured no ice cream ever again. There will be no pizza as we know it. It will just be, easily 10 years, the only pizza I would get would just be this big slab of bread stuff with extra sauce, because they would be like, you want a pizza with nothing, like that old commercial? Well, okay, let's give you extra sauce to compensate. So the extra sauce would end up making it basically like kind of like a bread bowl at Panera or something, but with sauce. And you laugh, but it was lousy. It was as bad as it sounds funny. And that was just what we had to do and what we did. But I was very, very lucky to be living my values. You had to learn back then about what byproducts and were in stuff, like whey and casein, by reading the dictionary. I found out about gelatin by having to read a dictionary. So I was at a party, a bunch of punk rock kids. Somebody came up with, hey, let's see how many marshmallows we can stick in our mouth at one time. And I was about to have my turn and try to fit the whole bag in. And someone was like, well, you can't eat that. There's gelatin in it. I was like, well, what's gelatin? And so we had to go. It was like, where's the bookshelf, and go find a dictionary. So literally at that party, I was like, okay, let me, and G, and it's like, oh my goodness, like that's what, like for real, that's what people are eating in a marshmallow. That's what we're feeding our kids, like taking horse hooves and buttholes and like boiling it and then scooping off the slime, and then that's what you're making a marshmallow with. Like, oh no, definitely a way to end the party and be a bummer. But that's how I found out about, gelatin and marshmallows. And luckily, Chicago Soy Dairy now has been keeping it real with the vegan marshmallows. And vegan cuisine back then, I don't know, has anyone been vegan longer than 20 years? So then you guys know that vegan cuisine back then was like not a thing. There were some people that were great chefs, and there were some restaurants, primarily in New York, from my experience, that were amazing. I think there was a place called Kate's, for anybody that remembers Kate's. But it really wasn't a thing. I probably had maybe 1,000 PBJs a year, easy back then. And yeah, there was no idea of a vegan foodie. Unless you like PBJs and poorly made pasta. So I joined the Army after 9/11 as a combat medic. So my story is from that time, thereabouts that I went vegan in 92. By 94, I was living in Japan as a college kid. Then I moved back to the States. And that would have been in 94, 5. And then 5, I graduated university with a degree in Japanese. And what do you do with the degree in Japanese? I didn't know either, so I moved to Japan. So from that period of time until 9/11, right after 9/11, I was living in Japan, living my best life, doing martial arts, and I was in a band, and Japan was great. If you haven't been, you have to go, and it's actually very easy to be vegan there. But 9/11, at least for us, I wouldn't call us older, but less young people, 9/11 was an event, like a catastrophic, life-changing event for a lot of us. And as an expat living in Japan, I felt it especially strong. I was walking home from work that day. It was around 10 at night. Obviously, with the time difference, New York time, it's going to be different than Tokyo time. And it was around 10. I got a text on my phone that something's going on. And then I got an emergency flash thing on my phone, which happens in Japan if there's any emergency. And then it was like, it seemed like word salad. I'm looking at the thing and it's like 2 planes. I'm like, what? Like a fire? I'm like, I know that kanji, but that's like 2 planes and a fire and like a building. And like, I'm like, a building? And like in New York, I'm like, it's just, I was like, I can't, what is this? And somebody called me, they're like, yo, you have to watch the TV. This is some amazing stuff is happening, but not in a good way. I didn't have a TV, so I had to go to a neighbor's house. And so I watched in real time I guess the second plane hit the towers, and it stunned me. It just, it changed everything forever. So I kind of slowly, and then soon after that, rapidly changed my life to be able to go back to live in the States. Because at that point, I'd been in Japan 7 years and my whole life and infrastructure was there. So first, I was like, okay, well, I just do some benefit shows. So the first show was for survivors, or we're for kids whose parents had perished in the building. So we put on a benefit show in Tokyo for that. And then the second one we did for kids whose parents had died in the bombing in Afghanistan. Because seeing the carpet bombings we were doing there hit me pretty powerfully too. But as time went on, I thought maybe that's just not enough. Like just doing that. Like, yeah, it was nice that I felt like I was doing my part, but I wanted to do more. And so I decided to go home and join the military. I felt kind of not right about being infantry and taking people's lives, but I figured as a medic I would be able to help both our side, their side, whoever in between. I'd like to think I did something like that. So what was my army life like, but from the perspective of being vegan? Because people often will say, hey, how was it to be in the military? And I could tell them like training and stuff, but I think vegans have a particular feeling about, like it must have been crazy. And in some points it was. So boot camp, it was really hard to be vegan. Not because the training was hard. In fact, it wasn't hard enough. Like I was in really, really good shape and I wanted a classic, most people won't know this movie, but if you do, that's awesome. Full Metal Jacket. I saw that as a kid, and probably the reaction you were not supposed to have was probably not, oh wow, this is amazing. This is exactly like what I want to do. I remember in 8th grade seeing that and it like hitting me like with a ton of bricks. Like this is exactly the craziness that I want. Not what Stanley Kubrick, when he created that movie, had as his intention, but hey, you show some kids some stuff like that, they're probably going to want to do that. My basic training was basically working out and maybe some slight yelling, but nowhere near like that. So physically, I was in shape and basic training was easy. However, if you add well, you're not going to eat much, then basic training becomes actually very difficult. Because I mean, most of us can run a mile, but can you run a mile with, say 100 pounds on your back? You know what I mean? Like, and that's what the crutch of not having enough food was like. It was adding that extra 100 pounds or that difficulty. So what would I have for breakfast? So it's not that anyone was forcing me to eat animal products while I was in the military. Far from that. It was just that there wasn't any alternative provided. So they had cornflakes, and cornflakes are vegan, not particularly delicious and not particularly nutritious, but they are vegan. So I would have a vegan breakfast. Did they have silk milk? No. Did they have soy milk of any type? No. Did they have hemp milk? No. Did they have coconut milk? No. Did they have rice milk? No. What did they have? Well, I can tell you from experience, dry cornflakes every day is not much fun. So I started trying to think outside the box, and I put fruit cocktail on it. And that was the best I had, because I think I just tried putting some water on it, and that was slightly less than super delicious. Coffee is also not great. And fruit cocktail, it moistens it enough that you're able to get it down before you have to actually taste how bad it is. Lunch was usually dry bread with some lettuce on it and some other kind of salad fixings, maybe rice if they had it. But if the rice was cooked with other things, then it probably had butter, so that was a no. And dinner was more of the same, like usually a bread sandwich and condiments. I lost a lot of weight, and while training wasn't difficult, losing a super amount of weight while you're trying to be, physically active for 15 hours a day, it would have been great if my intention was, to try to do some long fast and lose 100 pounds or something. But if I went in at probably 190 and I got out at like 160, and this, as you're seeing now, is back to 190, it was not optimal. Medic training, I was able to put a lot of my weight back on, and it was easier physically, and it was more mentally demanding, but I was able to get calories, and they had garden burgers in some of the chow halls, and it was much easier to find food. We had a locker inspection, which I occasionally tell people about, and so military, as you could guess, it is a lot of like regimented, and you're a lot of standing attention, and a lot of people yelling and stuff like that. So we're doing this locker inspection. I'm standing at position of attention, and the not a drill sergeant, but he would have been the sergeant in charge of our barracks. He's going through stuff, but they're mostly doing what they call health and welfare. They're making sure nobody has drugs, and it's kind of innocuous. But he takes a thing of Bacos out of my locker, and for those that don't know, Bacos are actually vegan, very accidentally vegan. And they taste, I don't know what bacon tastes like per se, but it's bacon tasting-ish, soy protein. And he goes, "Muir, what the F is this?" And he's like shaking up. He's like, "Why do you have Bacos in your Foot Locker?" And I'm like, "Sergeant, because they make my salads better, Sergeant." Yeah. So airborne school was, airborne school, I'm super proud to be a paratrooper, especially being afraid of heights. But airborne school was like the easiest time I had in the military. It was basically a 9-to-5 job where I would go off post or off base and just go to restaurants like Country Life or stuff like that. It was actually felt like a vacation. It was great. And I also wanted to be a ranger, and I got kicked out because I have vegan tattooed on my neck. When they saw that, they lost their minds. But part of our uniform, you have to carry a 2-quart canteen. So I drained that canteen, and I would carry like vegan snacks and stuff like that in there. And I thought I was very slick at the time. So does anyone remember Galaxy Foods? Do you ever have anything from Galaxy? I'm pretty sure they're not around, because I remember some of their products being awful. But they had a vegan cream cheese in like the 2000s. And I got that, and I would carry that, and I would like have it in my bag and like put it on a bagel and eat like a vegan cream cheese and bagel. I thought I was really doing something smart. It was great. Then after being kicked out of the Ranger Indoc for being vegan, the consolation prize was getting put in the 173rd Airborne, which is amazing. Has anyone been to Italy? Did you guys go as a vegan? Super easy to be vegan there. I would eat ice cream sundaes in Rome for breakfast. Pizza was easy to find, ice cream pie and stuff like that. I did have Italian friends, so it wasn't super hard, and knowing a little bit of the language, but just completely great. And then I was deployed to Afghanistan. Let me see if this is Afghanistan now. So then I was deployed to Afghanistan. So I got a whole story about that. I'll tell you after a few slides. So training, boot camp, yeah, access to vegan food, limited, lost a lot of weight. Exactly. I would say that's about right. Doing 24 hours of workout on less than 1,500 calories. I mean, 1,500 calories seems like it would have been a good day. Because now trying to stay in a calorie deficit, I probably eat around that now, and I don't do anywhere near the exercise I did then. I mean, even going to the gym 2 hours a day and maybe doing a 5K walk is nowhere near to what you do in basic training. And being vegan was difficult in boot camp. Army training in general, less restricted than boot camp. I had access to a car. And being vegan was only mildly annoying. I would say that was just about it. Like, I would say it would be like maybe living somewhere without a big supermarket, like not that bad at all. This is me with the 173rd getting ready for a jump. And that's what our old camouflage looked like, which in my opinion was probably the best one we had, that in the deserts. So what was jumping out of a plane like? So anybody here ever go skydiving? What'd you think? Was it pretty amazing or what? So as I mentioned earlier, I am afraid of heights, and for me, jumping out of a plane is even more amazing than people who are not afraid of heights. The reason being the sensation of being up there that high, like you're standing in the door ready to jump, your mind, it's like someone like let off a whole bunch of fireworks. The endorphins, the dopamine, it's just, you're like, this is, 850 feet, 900 feet down is the ground, and here I am, and this is the air, but this is the plane. It's just such an amazing, just crazy feeling. It's just, there's nothing that can be more crazy than that. It's like if you're riding a roller coaster and then you magnify that feeling by any number you want to come up with. But what's kind of amazing is that I would say not just those first five jumps, but then after jumping with the 173rd, you kind of in a way get used to it. And so I remember my last jump in airborne training, they had me be the first out the door, so I'm standing in the door with my chute, not connected to anything. I think my static line was already out of my hand. The jump master had it. And while I was baseline really afraid of heights, and while I was a relative novice paratrooper, I was just completely calm. Like, it was a June day. Well, this would have been August. So it was an August day in Georgia, but somehow not that hot, sunny, looking out at the sky. It was like this beautiful cloudless blue sky. And I remember just feeling so peaceful and so like, I could probably take a nap here if I had to, like zero adrenaline in my system. That's how much I had gotten used to it. And I've thought about it, and that's similar to how we in society have gotten used to all the effed up things people do to animals. We've just accepted that. And the part of the human experience is literally any situation you put someone in, you could get them used to it. And that's how I am hoping that we can get the whole world used to eating plant-based and doing something better. But yeah, it's pretty amazing how you can adapt to just about whatever circumstances you're in. So, stationed in Italy. So people ask about, the military. Really, unlike, except for training and war, it's pretty much like a 9 to 5, except that maybe part of your job is shooting guns and having to run around whether you like it or not. I had access to a kitchen, a car, and to some degree freedom. And I'm going to say that being stationed in Italy and being with the 173rd, it was fairly easy to be vegan. And that's what I looked like. I believe this is the St. Barbara's Ball in 2005. And those are my sergeant stripes, for those that are curious about the whole sergeant vegan thing. But how was it easy to be vegan, and how did I get access to a kitchen? Let me show you. So I got what I would like to call the golden ticket. And I got the golden ticket because I was like, hey, I remember that being vegan, especially in basic training, was awful. And then I got, booted from Ranger Regiment for the vegan thing, for having the vegan tattoo. And I need to think of a way around this because I don't want this kind of thing to follow me for the rest of my military career. I need to find a way to get the vegan problem off the table. And so what I did was, while vegan was not a protected class under religion, and if it was, I would have converted to whatever religion, at least on paper, to make it happen. The doctors were the closest thing to the Word of God, at least, for anybody in your leadership. So I went to a doctor and I said, "Yo, doc, I'm vegan. I need you to write me a note that's going to say that I need access to vegan food medically." So basically what he did was he wrote, "The following soldier specialist," because I was a specialist at the time, Specialist William Muir, my social redacted, so you guys don't ID theft me. Just kidding. "Will be placed on a vegan diet. Vegan diet, Specialist Muir cannot consume animal or animal product foods, i.e. eggs, fish, poultry, meat, and dairy products." Though, I'm not sure, this was a very smart guy. I don't know if he wrote dairy products on purpose or he just was typing it so quick and didn't care. And then the personal contact, POC, for this memorandum is the undersigned, blah, blah, blah. So once I took this to my leadership, I was like, "Sir, I need like my own apartment." And doctor said I needed it. They were like, "All right, sure, whatever." And boom, golden ticket. So, and that's how I was basically able to do the rest of my, at least being on post or off post. At least when we were in garrison and not deployed, I was able to go, make my own food. And it was super easy because, being vegan, even in the 2000s, there was enough stuff you could find, even in Italian supermarkets. So yeah. The thing that I would like everyone to get from this is not that you need to go to find your command and get a letter. Though I've mentioned this when people have asked me how were you vegan, and I've sent them a copy of this and said, "Hey, you get something like this." But there's almost always you could say broadly in life or in your own personal life with veganism, there's going to be some kind of snag. Things just come up because that's the life experience. There's almost always a way around everything, and you just got to think of what your own golden ticket is for the situation. So finally we get to it. How was it being deployed to Afghanistan? So not as bad as basic training, and it was kind of like being vegan in the 90s. Like, it wasn't really that bad. But I was pretty scared about the whole thing. I was very trepidatious. There weren't supermarkets in a traditional sense, or really any sense. I was relying on the food that we got through the chow hall or through the dining facility, which by dining facility was basically a 12 by 12 plywood box with some Marines opening big industrial tins. So it was not very vegan friendly, but I figured there was going to have to be a way to work with it. So even before I deployed, I was kind of like golden ticket style. I thought, you know what? There's a challenge, but there's an opportunity. The challenge is, how do I be vegan in a war zone? The opportunity is, if I can pull this off, I can show to other people back home and in other situations who might be hesitant and say, "Oh, it's difficult being vegan in XYZ." And I could say I was vegan at war. How hard is it to be vegan really? So the first thing I did was I was like, okay, I know I'll be able to send myself stuff because people were sending themselves TVs and other kind of nonsense. I got 2 industrial size boxes, probably big enough to fit the average person each. And I put every and anything I could find at the commissary that I would want that was vegan, like ramen, a staple of poor college kids and punk rock kids everywhere. We had rice milk at that point, so I put, a bunch of packs of rice milk in there. Cliff Bar protein bars. There weren't any of the good ones, but Cliff was around already. And probably protein powder, but I wouldn't have had much other than the rice milk to mix it with, so I don't think I did protein powder. And I sent that probably 150 pounds, 2 separate boxes to myself. And I thought, man, am I clever? Have I figured something out? Well, of course, there's always got to be a snag. And the way, the arc of storytelling goes, there has to be a snag with what I'm saying. So we got into theater, and we're in this tent, and they're given a quick safety brief. They pass out ammo. I don't have a picture here, but they gave me, because I was carrying a Beretta M9 pistol. They gave me a baggie with 15 bullets on it, like a little legit sandwich baggie with bullets. I mean, as a medic, you're not expecting me as your first line to be, shooting anybody, but still, it was just funny. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, Doc. By the way, one of your boxes exploded." And it was like an aside. It was like just like, "Oh, we almost forgot. One of your boxes exploded." And I think first thing that happened is my jaw dropped. I think I looked up and then I went, "Exploded," with my hands, and that kind of that stupid exploded like that. So as you would guess, we were often attacked during war because it was war. So anytime there was an explosion, someone would say, "Did it explode?" and do that hand gesture. Easily 6 months people got out of that, in which I guess it was funny, other than I was like, uh-oh, what do I do for food now? Half of my food, so I wasn't planning to live off that forever, but I thought maybe naively that would make up at least 6 months and I would have some time. So like within day one, I was already like, man, what am I going to do? So my first thing, I found out that halal meals, does everyone know what halal is? Halal is basically the Muslim equivalent for kosher. So, and a lot of those halal meals, when they have an MRE, a meals ready to eat, for people over there, they would make them halal, and they would be basically vegan by default. So I started off by trading food that we had in our dining facility. I would talk to some of the local docs and soldiers, and then they would give me one of their halal meals. I would give them whatever crap they were serving at the chow hall, and we would do like that, basically a barter. That went on for some time. Then they lost access to the halal meals because obviously those are supposed to be for locals, and I'm not supposed to be able to trade with the local docs for that. So then I started hanging out with the local docs, and then some of their food that they got, some of their sticky rice and stuff was vegan, so I would bring over, and we would do that too. And then they found out about that, and they're like, "Yo, we don't want you hanging out with the locals so much because we are in a war zone." So then I was like, man, what am I going to do? Like, I need a solid source of food. I need access. What do I do? So what I did, I went on anysoldier.com. Occasionally, we would have satellite Wi-Fi, and most of us brought a laptop, and this was 2005, so most of us, it was just normal to have a laptop. I went on, got the either cable or Wi-Fi. It was probably a cable. And I'm pretty sure it was Special Forces had a generator set up, so they had to have enough. They had to have enough petrol for the generator. They had to have a good signal. And if all that lined up, I was able to get on laptops. So I went on Any Soldier, and I basically put, my soldiers need like Maxim magazines and shaving supplies, and some of them are asking for beef jerky. And oh yeah, by the way, there's a vegan here who's really hungry, and. People's minds were blown because most people couldn't conceive of what it would be like to be vegan in the military. We'd not even talk about war. But then we add the element of, like life and death, like literal life and death, and then you're still like worrying about where you're going to get your macros or where you're just going to get enough stuff to put in your mouth and chew and swallow and keep your stomach full. And people at home and companies like Tofurky were very supportive. So friend of mine got in touch with Tofurky and told them, and Tofurky sent me a whole bunch of shelf-stable stuff. Has anyone seen the picture on the back of Tofurky where it'd be like, take your picture with Tofurky in an interesting spot? I don't know if they still do that, but back in the day they had that. Does anyone ever seen that? So that was maybe more of like the 90s and 2000s, but I got my picture taken with Tofurky and the 105 Mike howitzer behind me. So that was one of the, I think for people to see something like that, it was pretty amazing. And I probably have that picture coming up next. Dining facilities at small bases were not vegan friendly. I'd say not vegan friendly would be very kind. It was not friendly at all. It was still not as bad as basic training though, and it was tricky. So that's the picture. This is a 105 Mike howitzer. This is what Afghanistan looks like, which surprisingly looks very similar in parts to Riverside, California. Like Riverside sometimes doesn't have, as you could see, other than these trees, there's really no greenery. It's kind of what Afghanistan looks like. Lots of trees, lots of barren area. And yeah, that's what I look like as a vegan in the military in 2005. And that's, I don't know if they still have this, but the shelf-stable tofurkey I speak of. And I would pretty much eat that with crackers. As long as I had it, I would eat that breakfast, lunch, and dinner kind of. Yeah. Now we're going to switch gears to stuff you probably already know and some stuff you might not know. So as a registered nurse working with veterans, this is not a picture of me, by the way, but I guess if I was a dog, it would be similar appearance at work. Being vegan helps us avoid lifestyle diseases. So doing research for Vegan Strong, I found that we have 32% less chance of cardiac disease than meat eaters. I think that's significant. That's the biggest advantage that going vegan has for all of us. And the other two things are interesting, but I'm not sure if it's causation or correlation, in that we also have less instances of diabetes, or as Wilford Brimley used to say, diabetes, if you remember that guy, and less instances of obesity. But I caution when we think about that, because often with veganism, there's and movements in general, but vegans have a propensity to do this, jump to conclusions. Is it that being vegan will mean you don't get diabetes and you have no chance of being obese? Or is it that people that tend to eat healthier also work out more and eat less junk, and eating less junk, no matter who you are, will have less of a chance of causing diabetes and less of a chance of raising your BMI? As a healthcare professional, I like to work with the truth and not what I would like to be true. So I'm not sure about these two. I know that people who are healthier and exercise more and move more and eat better and eat more vegetables and less highly processed stuff have less of those two. But is it because you're vegan? I'm not sure. I'm sure that some people would accuse me of heresy, saying that I'm not sure, even being vegan this long, but hey, that's where we're at. However, and not to be a Debbie Downer, vegans still get sick and vegans still die. So last year, I had a double hip replacement. So I don't know if anyone here has had a hip replacement. Has anyone had a hip replacement? But I had a double hip replacement. I had a double hip, meaning I got not one, but two done at the same time. I was very lucky that the doctor would do something as crazy as that. Because if anyone's had major surgery, imagine that times two. Just have an X2 and see what that, your body would, how that your body would react to that. Why? Did it have anything to do with being vegan? I don't think so. Do I know so? No, because I'm not God or any higher power, and no doctor knew either. It just, I probably have a propensity to that genetically, and I used to run marathons, and I used to do martial arts, and I beat the heck out of my body for years. I ate healthy, and I lived as healthy of a diet as you could, but in the military, you run 5 days a week, and then I ran on Saturdays too, to make sure that I was good for Monday. It's really not the kind of training you should do running that much. And then I used to run marathons. And then when I did anything, when I did martial arts, I did Aikido, but I didn't just do Aikido. I did it 5 days a week and 7 hours a day for this instructor's program. And then I came back as an instructor for an additional year. So that wear and tear on your body will wear you down. Now, the fact that I was young and healthy meant the doctors were like, yeah, you'll probably be fine with that. And the fact that now I'm walking around fine, and I'm back to light jogging, and I've been lifting since I got out of the hospital, even when I was on leave from work. So your turnaround time is going to be great as a vegan, and I think it cuts out some of the problems that your turnaround for having a surgery would be otherwise. However, it doesn't make you Superman. Like, your body's gonna have problems. You're still gonna get sick. You know I saw on the internet that some people thought that being vegan was gonna protect you from all germs like COVID. The germs don't care. If you're vegan, if you're American, if you're Martian, you could still get COVID or anything like that, and probably cancer as well. But I will say, as the other side, because I always have to mention both sides, I think being vegan sets you up in a healthier spot. It's just, don't see it as some kind of invisible, impenetrable shield that will protect you from life. Also, because I've seen this on the internets, we need to avoid fat and health shaming other vegans. People will often say, if someone is vegan and has some health problem, they'll say like, oh, maybe you weren't vegan enough, or maybe you weren't doing it right, or maybe it's your own fault. But life is just going to be hard and sometimes going to be like that. Something bad's going to happen to you and there's no explanation, you know? Also, we need to avoid getting medical advice from Facebook and social media. I'm just going to put that out there. Doctors generally, to be fair to the situation, doctors take a 3-credit class in nutrition, which is the same amount of nutritional information I got mandatory as a registered nurse. So you have to be able to interpret some of the things that the doctors are saying. For example, if they're saying you need to get more protein, okay, then get more protein. There's plenty of plant-based proteins, which I don't have to name, but you already know the list of them. That's what the doctors are saying. If they said you had to eat more chicken to get more protein, it's not because chicken's some kind of magical, creature whose flesh you need to consume. It's more that the doctor knows just as much as I do about nutrition, not as much of a nutritionist, and they're just doing the best they can with that. Because to be fair to the doctor, I'm hoping you haven't been in a doctor's appointment where they've Googled something or opened up Wiki. I've seen that. But the doctors are expected to know and talk on any subject that you could possibly imagine. So, cut them a little slack, but also understand with their limitations. But you can find in some areas a healthcare provider who understands vegan nutrition and who will be able to help you on that. Also, because I think I originally came up with this during COVID times, you still need to wear a mask and social distance and wash your hands, especially from people that are sick. Like, germs don't care if you're vegan. They'll get everyone sick. Because of the internet, vegan has come a long way. So I mention this because people often like to think, as activists as I am, that somehow the angry meat is murder, hand jam signs, and standing in front of Whole Foods or some of the people that I know will go in Whole Foods and scream at people for buying animal products. Well, they'll like to think that that's how we create a vegan world, when really it's the internet. Now, I have a lot to say about how we use the internet, and I have a lot to impart on ideas to do that better, but it's mostly the internet. It's through the internet that we've created a demand for vegan products. The demand for vegan products will create a supply, so companies are like, oh, there's a way to make some money. And that's why we get new vegan products every day. And some will stay, some will go. Beyond Meat stocks will do great. Beyond Meat stocks will tank. People like me will be grumpy because I bought a bunch of Beyond Meat. But it is what it is. Vegan restaurants literally everywhere. And that's supply and demand, again, due to the internet, due to people like us talking about how great it is to be vegan, makes other people interested. Vegan celebrities. Now, when I first made this presentation, I was first doing it, Miley Cyrus was vegan, and I was like, I think I had this question, who's your favorite vegan celebrity? And then my answer to that was Miley Cyrus, not because I am an aficionado of her music, so much as I thought it was amazing that she would be able to tell young people everywhere that, hey, you should be vegan for the animals. I thought that was amazing. Now she's not vegan anymore, so yeah. But the thing about vegan celebrities is it gets that spike of interest, of dopamine. People are like, oh, if they're doing it and it works for them, maybe I should do that too. I think that's why that's interesting. However, the problem about any kind of celebrity worship is celebrities or humans in general will do something one day then it won't be cool anymore to them and or inconvenient, or their trainer will say they shouldn't or whatever nonsense, and then they'll not do it. And if we just rely on the celebrities or vegan influencers to tell us the right path, I think that's kind of flawed. I mean, as somebody who would like to think of myself as a vegan influencer or whatever, I could see how it's kind of like counterproductive in some ways for me, but I think everyone should be their favorite vegan hero and not have to rely on other people. Because at the end of the day, we're all fallible. But you should be able to rely on yourself. You look inside and do that and think of yourself, because really, unfortunately, most of your heroes will let you down. I mean, that's the honest to God truth. And vegan bodybuilders, if you've ever seen Game Changers, there's a ton of vegan bodybuilders and it's amazing. So that's me and Robert in an event we were doing. So in 2024, being vegan is super easy. It doesn't have to be expensive. So there's always going to be another brand that's trying to push some kind of super expensive, more expensive than it needs to be. You guys are kind of safe from this nonsense, but in LA, there's grocery stores like this place, Erewhon, that's like, doing the $15 smoothies and other kind of such nonsense. There's no limit to the amount of vegan tax people will put on stuff. And products that you don't need to eat. At the end of the day, rice and beans and tofu, cheap as heck. Like nothing cheaper. A bucket of salad, you're going to be better off eating that than almost anything else. Now, if you just eat a bucket of salad, will you get all your macros? No. Like, please don't just soundbite me and think, well, Sergeant Vegan said a bucket of salad, so I'm only getting 500 calories a day. I'm fine. No, most of us need 2,000 calories a day. Making sure you get enough protein, carbs, and fats. But yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated. One of the things I think even influencers and celebrity trainers and whatnot will do is try to make this into some kind of mystical thing, and they'll say, you have to, listen to me and only I can set you free. I mean, it sounds like a cult leader, but they say stuff similar to that. Look, all you need to do to be healthy is eat the way you did when you were slightly less healthy, but then take out the animals and put in some healthy plant proteins instead of the animals. And then you don't need vegan cheese or vegan plant milk, but there's a ton of that, and you can have that instead of the other dairy products. Good to go. People try to complicate things all the time and add like 30 new recipes. You don't need to eat 30 new recipes. Now, eating new variety of foods, often great. Eating the rainbow, as they say, that's awesome. But you could just plug and play for your regular stuff. You were having an animal-based chili. Now you took out the ground cow. Now you're putting in ground impossible. Good to go, And vegan is for everyone. I think there was this idea that, people created this idea of what a vegan looks like, some kind of hippie, patchouli kind of whatever. They try to create this image, and then when they look at you and they look at the image, they're like, oh, that's not what a vegan, because I have this card and that's what a vegan, no. Literally, no matter who you are, no matter where you came from, we should all be vegan. No matter what, age, it's not just for young people or old people, it's for everybody. It's not just for, men or women, it's for everybody. It's for no matter what you look like or where you are, vegan is for everyone. And anything, in my opinion, that holds us back from that, from making it accessible that everyone can have access to vegan food and be healthy. And sometimes, unfortunately, when we're all victims of wanting our movement to be like kind of our own little family and we know everybody, we can all be part of that, the hindrance to it. I remember when plant-based first became a thing, I was like, why are these kids using plant-based? It's been vegan for years and now they're trying to, that kind of a get off my lawn nonsense. Hey, if plant-based makes people go vegan, because that's essentially what they're doing, minus the ethics, maybe plus or minus, then plant-based is what you call it. If we need to come up with a new sexy word for plant-based when plant-based isn't good anymore, we should. Whatever way we need to sell this to people to save more lives, both human and animal, and our planet, should be something we're doing. And anything to the contrary is people like me who are sometimes like kind of living in the past. So what does vegan strong mean? I'm going to boil it down to 3 things. Number 1, living happy and healthy. So I say happy, and I'm going to emphasize that. Why? Negativity does not sell. Nobody wants negative. The reason why, besides not having great food back in the 90s, that veganism didn't sell is we were going at it the wrong way. None of us had degrees in marketing. So if you give a bunch of angry punk rock kids say, hey, talk to people about being vegan, we're going to write stuff like meat is murder because we heard it from the Smiths, and like angry stuff, or we'll just be angry. But nobody wants angry. That's super negative. And if you just think of it from a marketing standpoint, it doesn't sell anything. It doesn't sell ideas, and it doesn't sell products. So living a happy and healthy life, on the other hand, when people see you and you're healthy and you have a smile on your face and you're vibrant, that right there, just they're like, oh, hey, that is literally what attractiveness is. And they're like, oh, something going on with them. I wonder what they changed. Turns out it's their diet. Well, I wonder what they're eating. Oh, it looks good. That is going to sell the movement a million times more than you do this, you are bad, nobody wants that. And if you've ever fought somebody, when you're attacking someone, what's the first thing the person's going to do? If they're going to cover up, they're going to block. Instead of, if you're not attacking someone, then why is someone going to block? Why is someone going to try to defend themselves from your ideas? Be fit and confident. So fit is going to be different for everybody, obviously. I'm getting back to running. I ran my first, after I was having extreme arthritis in my hips. They said end-stage arthritis. So I was like, oh, that means there's really nothing I could do to make it worse. So I just kept squatting and doing whatever. They were like, well, doesn't that hurt? And I'm like, well, yeah. But to quote Roadhouse, pain don't hurt. So, so being fit is going to be different for everyone. However, I think we all should strive, because of the movement and just because that's the best way to live, to be as fit as we can, whether that's going to be being a gym rat, whether it's going to be going to the gym twice a week, or I would argue walking, getting your 10,000 steps a day is one of the best things you could do for yourself, like bar none. And confident. Why? Because if you're not sure about what you're talking to someone about, why would anyone listen to you, If you're like, well, I mean, you could do this, or if you don't, it doesn't sell. The flip side of that is trying to write someone checks you can't cash. I'm not, like we said in earlier slides, I'm not going to tell people lies about veganism. I'm going to say the truth, that it will give you a better you, that it will extend your life, that you will have less chances of, instances of these kind of diseases. I'm not going to say it won't lead to you living to 175. I won't say that it will give you, immortality, we should all be confident, but not trying to lie about it. And lastly, a positive vegan message, because positivity is always going to sell better than negativity. And that's the Vegan Strong Team. So that's the book. I was trying to think of the best, most catchy way to kind of have as my subtitle, and that's what I came up with at the time. Some people were not happy that I used ass in the title, and even a kick-ass, so I don't know. But I figured that would give someone like an idea of what you're getting into, that I would say that. And that's the story. Please, please, please ask questions, and for those that I haven't given a sticker to, I need to give you a sticker. Questions? Yes.
Your golden ticket. Were you surprised when most doctors have been just military badass and said, well, tough it out,
You know what? The first person I asked was the person that wrote it. Generally speaking, the suck it up buttercup feeling was prevalent and still is prevalent with the military, and for good reason. If you want a nurturing, cuddling environment, the military is not the place for it. I remember as a medic, I was basically like what are kind of like, not an RN, because an RN in the military would be something called a Mike 6, and they're an actual RN, but I would I would do a whole like patient charting and bring a patient into the PA. And I remember being in a PA's office where this kid was complaining of knee pain from a jump, and the PA, physician assistant, was like, you look up there, you see that diploma, and when I went to jump school, and he's like, I've been jumping for 35 years, and you're 19 and you have pain, you're basically a sissy. And that was kind of like the feel. I remember going, ooh. So most of the doctors that I really only talked to one doctor, and most of the doctors that I had mentioned that I was vegan, at least in the military, I didn't get any pushback from any of them. And really, the only things I got was I got, what you would expect, a little bit of bad mouthing and harassment, which, I mean, we get that in our daily lives anyway. And I don't know, just not have thin skin is my general feeling about it. For me, at least in the military, like, we should treat each other with more dignity and respect and not have that. At the same point, like, having thick skin will help you, navigate most of life's problems. It looks like I'm not running out of, ooh. Well, it looks like I am going to be back at my booth. So please, if you have any questions at all, please go ahead back there. It was amazing getting to speak to you. Thank you very much.